Mr. Delacare. Also want to welcome our Chief Political Analyst, Mr. Wilmot Wetty Cooney. Mr. Cooney, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dennis, for having me. I just want to first of all say I'm happy to be back. The listeners, my fans, I miss you guys for the last 2 weeks that I've not been able to be on. It was just due to family commitment, and I miss all of you. I'm happy to have this exchange with my brother here on issues affecting our country, and I hope we can have a fruitful discussion regarding Liberia.
Also joining us on the phone is our public policy analyst, Mrs. Carl Famula. Carl, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I apologize that I have to, I'm driving, so I'm using my hands free, but I will be listening keenly and engaged in just, my normal self.
Thank you so much. We want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. This is Focus on Liberia, Tough Talking Thursday. And people are already asking, where is Mohammed? Well, let's announce to you that this is the first month Mohammed is interceding on our behalf for the country and for the people. And so at this time, he's at the mosque breaking the fast, so he's not here. But definitely at the end of April, when after we all celebrate Ramadan together, Mohammed will be back. All right, and tonight we're going to be talking about this whole idea of party politics based on, some say, tribal lines or ethnicity or class or county or regional. But before we go into that, there are some pressing issues I wanted to just discuss briefly before we get into our today's topic. As you may have heard, there was an airline going from Brussels airline that couldn't land at our national airport because of light issue. And so when they got there, the airport was dark, so they have to go back to Sierra Leone and wait the next day. Mr. Cooney, what is going on at the airport, and how serious is this? And I don't know if our government, if those responsible, they really understand the magnitude of this and what can be done to remedy the situation. So I know you heard the story. This is not the first time. I think when the president was coming, similar thing happened. Now citizens and foreign nationals are landing, and then we have this issue. What's your take?
Well, look, this is a very serious matter. It is completely unacceptable. Liberians should not be going through this kind of problem. An international airport has certain prerequisites to operate, and if the management cannot meet the requirements for the airport, they should not put citizens at risk. I mean, this issue is so serious to the point where people are asking what really needs to happen before the government or the management can really pay attention. Are we looking forward to the day where 300 Liberians or 300 passengers traveling to Liberia can crash and die in an airplane before somebody takes decision? I mean, this is just something that I cannot understand. It's unacceptable. I think it border on incompetence, because even the explanations that people provide after this kind of thing don't give you any, I mean, it don't fly anywhere. For somebody to say that, oh, it takes 30 minutes for the light to be restored fully, and it is the person who in the control. This is an unacceptable explanation. Certain things you just cannot explain. So I'm disappointed, as I told you here over and over. I myself, during my visit to Liberia, I mean, maybe I was lucky. The plane landed 1 hour after the plane landed, the current went out at the airport. And this continued to be a continuous problem. So what is the role of management if management can solve these problems? And Liberians and foreigners continue to be placed at risk. And people keep saying, well, we're doing our best. This is an entity that generates its own revenue. And to be honest with you, this undermines the government. It undermines the credibility of the government. It undermines the president. It undermines, the entire country. And there can be no defense. There can be no explanation for this. There can be no defense for this because of the safety of Liberians, the safety of lives. So Dennis, I don't know how else it can be described. It is unacceptable. The
So,
government
Mr. Kune, do you believe someone should lose his or her job?
absolutely from the time absolutely, and these are some of the examples that we cite of impunity in the country. We were on the show when I told you during the ECOWAS International Conference, where the ECOWAS delegation got stuck in the elevator. I think somebody should have been held responsible at that time. And the fact that these things continue to happen and nobody is taking responsibility, I think it sent the wrong message, it sent the wrong signal. And I don't know why people at that airport stay, people still keeping their job when these kind of things happen. And I think hell should roll. Hell should have rolled a long time ago at that airport.
Thank you. Janitor, I have a different issue for you, and feel free to go in any direction you want. During the trial where Mr. Mo Ali was at the trial of Mr. Cummings, the story is going that he refused to swear either on the Bible or on the Quran because he said he's neither Christian nor Muslim. And this story has taken headline, especially coming from people of the Alternative National Congress, of which you're a member. I saw the post of the Secretary General highlighting this on Facebook. How significant is this issue that it should be like a major headline from, especially coming from the ANC?
I think it speaks to the prerequisite for a witness to take a stand in the court. And so there's a wisdom behind why a witness should swear an oath before testifying to whatever he or she claims to be the right thing that has happened. And so we have to backtrack. I'm trying to find out because I was not at the National Elections Commission to establish as to whether Mo Ali testimony concerning the withdrawal of the Unity Party and the ALP as challenged by the CPP he swear to have testified. So the way it is playing itself, it demonstrates clearly, that there is something hidden and someone does not want to put themselves against the wall, because I see absolutely nothing as long as you are truthful, you are honest, and you want to state exactly what occurred. So it does not border on whether you are Christian or Muslim or belong to any tribe or does not belong to any, religion. So the trend taken by the Unity Party leadership, I think for some of us, we have some soft spot for the Unity Party. I think it's a weak trend. I think it doesn't speak to leadership in that specific direction and in other multiple directions that they have taken over the time. The party have been a sophisticated party, but I think led by some group of militants who are not prepared intellectually and just want to get to power by riding on the gullibility of the Liberian people, probably like how President Weah got to power. And moving forward, we have to work to get this thing. And so we hope that tactics by Mr. Mo Ali and the Unity Party, they can address themselves to it properly, and we hope the court can take the appropriate action that it will normally take, representing every character that will go before the court. and we look up to that happening in the CPP case, because for us, we say that we are on the matter of change, not the superficial change that today we will have absolutely. I mean, mere arithmetic gas finishing from the LPRC 2019, and jet fuel finishing at the airport 2021, and then light going all 2022 consistently, even with the president coming to the country and no one takes responsibility. I mean, it speaks to what Mr. Cummings and the ANC and the opposition community have consistently mentioned, that we have an inept government,
Mr.
group of people who are not prepared. So to the issue again, we hope that the court can apply what it will apply to every individual or witness that will appear before the body.
Thank you. Mr. Drake, here's my problem. The CPP told us, that united we can defeat WIA. Now you have a seat in Lofa County where ANC is not feeding a candidate, or the CPP, as we used to know it, is not feeding any candidate. So right now what ANC is saying that it's better for CDC to take this seat than for the UP to take the seat. I mean, how is that not fighting the battle for WIA? And instead of that being focused on, people are focusing on whether more, swear on the Bible, on the Quran, or on the Hindu Gita.
So there are two things here. One, that he will swear, which certain school of thought would think it is minimizing the essence of the Lofa County by-election, but indeed it is not minimizing, because it
what you are doing is like, if I don't have it, let nobody have it. It's better for we have to take it. That's
no, absolutely,
serious.
Absolutely no. Like I said, this issue of swearing onto the Bible or by the court proceeding is a separate situation that borders on integrity. It's to the nerve of our country growth, and it can determine why people get in leadership and they do not act in the right direction, for which we are having these many discussions will be coming up in the not too distant future. But on the Lofa County by-election, the CPP is in solidarity with Mr. Bernie Samuka, who, by extension, we think that one way or another, he will play on politically. And so we are in solidarity with Mr. Honorable Samuka, who served the nation for 12 years.
He's not running.
On the other hand, we have a contract that we went into at CPP. As one of the progenitor of the CPP framework document, we requested that each constituent political party should submit a notarized two-third majority of that constituent party resolution agreeing to everything that will be penned down by the CPP. And we did in conformity as 4 constituent political parties making up the CPP. If for any reason you have chosen to leave, we do not have issue with it, but what is applied in that document, you have to live up to it. And that is why today we are having the issues that we are having. We are not stopping Unity Party. What Unity Party would have done is what we are requesting them. And when Mo Ali and the Unity Party requested the ANC and the Liberty Party under the umbrella of the CPP to take off their logo, the Unity Party logo, we only reminded them that we have an instrument that binds us, because it has to do with the aspiration of Liberians. Liberians were second guessing from the formation of the CPP that would have resulted to what came up 1997 with the coalition of political parties. And so we said,
thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. I get it. And since this is let me go to call. Call, my question for you is different. And then after this, any of you can chime in of the question. Call, yesterday, the Unity Party dissatisfied with what's going on in Lofa County, took to the streets and went to the embassy, to the U.S. embassy, and I believe the UN as well. In other words, saying U.S. come and help us. What's your take on this? The Bible verse that say, "Our Father in heaven, give us this day our daily bread." Now we move that and put America. So everything we run to America. What do you make of the UP going to the American embassy and say, "Come and solve the problem that we ourselves
So
supposed to be solving"?
I'm not sure that the UP went to the U.S. embassy. Was it the Unity Party, or was it who exactly went? Because did the chairman of the Unity Party go to the U.S. embassy?
Yes, the chairman read the statement.
Okay, I haven't been. I'm not on Facebook anymore. But that's pretty embarrassing. I am a constitutionalist. I believe in our Constitution. I believe in our sovereignty. And there's a lot of things that the Unity Party and the constituent members of the CPP have done that has undermined our sovereignty and our democracy. Um, this is one of them. There are other means in which you can handle this. We're not at war. We're not being dictated to by a military junta. This is a democratically, as much as they're failing the people, they were elected lawfully, constitutionally. Um, and this process needs to play out at the Supreme Court. This case, this case should have been thrown out at NET because there's no contract that can stop someone from, the breach of contract basically does not, circumvent your constitutional rights. Your right to run for office, your right to vote, your right to, as a citizen, select the person that you want to represent you. And no contract, no civil contract to be able to disenfranchise anyone. So that again goes along with what's been happening with the constituent members of the CPP. This selfish lust for power, which is more important than the sovereignty of the country. We're going to go to America. We're going to undermine the government. We're going to undermine the country. The second thing, we're going to make sure that the Lothians, once again, do not have the right to select who they want to represent them. I mean, of all of the abominations against the democracy of Liberia, this has to be it. And so we can't, as an opposition group, on one hand say, WIA is violating the Constitution, is people's rights, and then turn around and participate in actions that do exactly the same. So NAC has frivolously taken a complaint to what they should have done is to carry it to civil court. We can't stop someone from, we cannot prevent someone from exercising the constitutional rights based on a contract. So please take this to court. Sue the political party civil is what would happen in any normal country. But because NAC, it's in favor to undermine candidate.
Call your audio is not coming out well now.
Okay.
It's getting this.
Let me see. Can you hear me a little bit better now?
Let's say that again.
All right. Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, a little better.
Okay. So basically, just to wrap up, I'm not in favor of anyone running to America to undermine the Liberian government or any other political party or any individual. We have to exercise and exhaust our internal options. The next step, because NEC was absolutely incorrect for even entertaining this, the next step is take it to the Supreme Court. This is a legal issue. It's a constitutional issue, and it needs to be addressed. Going to the U.S. Embassy and protesting, I think, is just, for what? For what? What are they going to do? Why wouldn't you go to the legislature and protest? Why wouldn't you go to NEC and protest? I just don't get it. I wouldn't advise that. But again, everyone does this in Liberia. They think it's normal. They think it's a good thing. And, first of all, it doesn't produce anything. It's humiliating. And you're basically saying we're incapable of handling our own issues. Come help us because, we're whatever racist stereotype they have about Liberia, we project it in our actions. all of these lawsuits. I'm sick of it, Dennis. Honestly, I'm sick of it.
No, thank you. I am too. Mr. Cooney, 1 minute, Mr. Dolaka, 1 minute, and call 1 minute. So to speak to any of those three issues that are presented. Let me start with Mr. Cooney.
Well, look, for me, I've said so much about the wahala in the opposition party, the collaboration. I really don't want to delve into the matter of that opposition anymore. Clearly, they're not offering any alternative. Everything they do look completely disjointed. You don't see any vision that they are presenting that the Liberian people would look at and compare to the current government. There's no inspiration, nothing. It is all these fights and other things. So I don't want to deal with I don't have much to say about the opposition right now. My input here tonight really will have to be a call to vigilance on the government that I support. That at this time, at this critical time, when Liberians are paying attention, when the issue of governance is on the line, the government need to be vigilant to really weed out incompetent individuals that are subjecting this government to a whole lot of ridicule in terms of the execution of their professional responsibilities. And again, that goes back to the RIA thing. These are low-hanging fruits that are being used against the government based on the incompetence of people. So as we go through this electoral process, I'm asking my government to really be vigilant. We have to perform satisfactorily to the Liberian people if we are to be elected. Let our focus be in that direction. The CPP, they're doing what they're gonna do. I mean, they're not really worth paying attention to. But let us focus on the delivery of services to our people. Let's focus on meeting the needs of our people. Where there is incompetence anywhere in our government, I think it's about time now to be rooting out that incompetence so that the Liberian people can enjoy the benefits, the services, they can enjoy the safety and security of their country.
Thank you, Mr. Cooney. Let me go to Jonathan to respond to any of the issues that we raised. Jonathan, we have to connect your Bluetooth.
No, nothing is connected. It's just normal.
Okay, go ahead.
And so I'm not really disappointed in President Weah administration. I'm not disappointed. Absolutely not disappointed. This is a man that presented absolutely nothing to the Liberian people. At least the CPP had got it by exchanging, putting forth, being cross-examined by Liberian people, in some instances corrected by the Liberian people, unlike this kleptocratic government that we have that is accused of everything, and even the low-hanging fruits like the airport, the entry to our country that should be able to attract investment have gone so badly. I mean, there is nothing that disappoints me, because I know that he was in the Senate. I was legislative research analyst in the Senate. I knew his performance. I knew what he could do and what he could not do. On the flip side, quickly before I just end, the CPP is into a situation that we have to be honest with ourselves as to what we can do differently than this government. When I say the CPP, I mean the full political party, including those who claim to have withdrawn, got out of the process. And I just hope that with time again, we'll have insight as opposition political parties that December 2023 is in sight. Whatever way we fall, we will always need one another. That is why we're irresponsible to have carried Mr. Cummings to a criminal court and charged him for something that he did absolutely nothing And so we just hope that we all can be honest and genuine. And to the last point, just before call comes in, uh, it is a constitutional matter. That is why there are lawyers. That is why you go to the court. You don't go to the court because you hate the person, but because you want a fair interpretation of the law. And so, contra law versus the right to participate will be contesting against each other, and we'll have to establish a ground on who's right and who's wrong. But in the wisdom of 4 parties, they believe, for which is signed a resolution and attach it to the framework document, that it was absolutely correct. That is why lawyers represented those political parties, and they acted in that spirit and manner because of the aspiration of Liberian people to keep them together as one body. If it was selfishly done by the Unity Party with an underpinning notion that by this time they will be claiming otherwise, then of course Liberian people will see each of us honesty.
Thank you, Jonathan. Let me bring in Cole. Cole, 1 minute for your.
Yeah, I mean, this is just so funny. First of all, and there's no such thing in this world as a breach of contract. The consequence of breaching a contract being the rescinding someone's constitutional rights. That's ridiculous. And no, you don't need a lawyer to understand that. I mean, children should understand their basic constitutional rights. This is not the kind of thing that's supposed to create a constitutional crisis. This is common sense. Any law that contradicts or circumvents the Constitution is null and void. And that's laws. And you're talking about just a contract? It's ridiculous. This isn't like, the first thing is there's no such thing as an anti-competitive agreement in a democracy. You don't use those corporate tactics in a democracy. Democracies don't have anti-competitive agreements because the whole purpose of democracy is to compete. And to the voice of the people to be supreme, not the voice of a political party or an individual. That's not what that's about. So you can't have an anti-competitive agreement in a democracy, and that's what this CPP framework document is. It's an anti-competitive agreement that applies to corporations. If you come and work for my company and you learn my trade secrets, you cannot then take those trade secrets out there and build your own company. So you signed a contract. And even when that type of contract is breached, the consequence of that is not jail time. It is a civil lawsuit. You sue them for money. You sue them to stop using your trade secrets or whatever. But in a democracy, you have an anti-competitive agreement. It means it's anti-democratic. The two things do not work together. So the very basis, the very foundation of the CPP is problematic, and the framework document itself is problematic. You cannot have an anti-competitive agreement in a democracy. You come together, you should always have a right to decide to go apart. And the reason is politics is based on ideology, on principles, on values. Those things can change. Alliances can change. You cannot, in a democracy, lock someone into a situation. It is against the Constitution. It's against the principles of democracy. It is against the very basis on which the country was established. We live in a republic. Liberia is not a corporation. It's a republic. It's a company. It's a country, not a company. And so, that whole argument to me is absurd. And just really quickly, I know you said 1 minute. I think I've gone 2. Mr. Cooney, the failures of the CDC government were seen long before this happened. But I must say, I am shocked and appalled at how deeply CDC has failed. It's shocking. It's very, very shocking. I mean, I didn't think things were going to be perfect, but the dismal way in which this government is running the country, it's so tragic. It's so tragic. And if people love Liberia, if people love our country, people need to get to WIA. People need to get to WIA, and they need to advise him. They need to advise him and the people around him. This is not about political parties anymore. Our country is dying under this administration.
Thank you. Thank you, Carl. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, this is focused on Liberia. And our topic today is ethnic, county, regional, or class politics in Liberia. Who or what is responsible, and what are the impact and implications? So based on that, I think, I was kind of thinking about some things, and these are the things our discussion will be around today. For instance, what should politicians, including high-ranking government officials, do or shouldn't be doing for their countries, their region, or ethnic group? And the background of that is, you may have heard that something like after 12 years as VP, what did Joseph Boakai do for Lofa? Or you may have heard WIA is taking all the projects to the southeast, meaning WIA is from the southeast. Or some may say after 27 years, Todmont did not build the Ganta-Hapo Highway. So I'm thinking, how widespread is the support of a particular politician based on that politician's ethnic group, their regional or religious affiliation in Liberia, and what is responsible for that? If we know, what can we do about it? As Judge Uya is in power now, is from the southeast. There is a call that he's focusing on southeast. Do most southeastern Liberians support President Weah and the CDC government? Do most Nofans support the candidacy of Mr. Joseph Boakai? Do most Dimbayans support Senator Prince Johnson and his political aspirations? I'm also thinking, are Southeastern supporters of President Weah, are they satisfied with what he's doing? Are they happy? Are they disappointed or unhappy with the development work in the Southeast? Is the politics of ethnicity, region, or county a Liberian thing? Is it unique to Liberia? Is it an African problem? Or is it what people call all politics is local? And we shouldn't forget that as we talk this ethnic and religious politics, we are coming from war, where an entire ethnic group can be targeted by a government because of their affiliation with a politician. So I'm saying, what drives the targeting of an entire ethnic group or county by government? Because a member of that county, a member of that ethnic group gets in trouble with the government. We saw that between President Doe and Kwiwankpa, and the list go on and on. So here are the things, these are the things I want us to talk. And the reason we brought this up is I started getting calls when people, especially young people, started thinking that the country is so divided, is so, Southeastern Liberians are doing this, and this person and that person. Before we start the discussion, I'm going to play for you a video clip of one Liberian who believes the problem in the country is a Southeastern thing. Take a listen.
Mr. Ray, who happens to be the director at Legis, was my vice principal for administration at the College of West Africa. And it breaks my heart to know that this man who was once a principle-minded individual, one who I could have bet my life for, this man is now notoriously corrupt. There is something about the Southeastern guys. I'm just going to say this. People will be mad at me. You folks, every time you put your foot in government, it has not gone well for the country. I'm not trying to be, to say I want to bring segregation, but we have to say the facts. Every time you guys have had the country, let's be honest here, folks, the country really suffered under your rule. President Todman enjoyed some of the greatest concession agreement in Liberia history. Yet then the road in the Southeast were not paid. But then you open your mouth and say Joseph Boakai was vice president, the road to Lofa were not paid.
That's Mr. Josh Lobo. He's the host of The Drive, and he's also a strong supporter of Mr. Joseph Newman Boakai, and also a member of the Unity Party. I want to also bring to your attention another supporter of the Unity Party has been carrying on what I refer to as the Southeastern rent. And it's because of this background, I want us to discuss this issue. And here is what he said. And the person is Mr. Obe. And this is what he says. Violence, it could be the only opinion, the only option the Southeast leadership have always understood to force them to reason. And there is no turning back when patience runs out to choose violence. The Southeast has always been the problem. He also wrote, I said many times, when a Southeast person has the leadership, Liberia falls into perils. ritualistic killings, unwarranted killings of people, of public officials, death squads, uprising and terror grabbed the country and its people. Samuel K. Doe targeted Nimba County. We are also from the southeast is targeting Lofa County. Lofa County is now the new Nimba. Again, this politician also is a unity partisan and support Joseph Newman Boakai. It can be recalled in 2017. Here was the politics. This one was posted by one Julius Sa and referred to the Boakai. Boakai Nukwe ticket has the native ticket. It reads, "We, the native country people, are at the verge of regaining our land from the hands of the Congo elite guys with the Boakai Nukwe ticket. If you think you are a Congo man who go to your Congo brothers, or Congo man, then go to your Congo brothers. As far as we are concerned, we are in our numbers." And so Mr. Boakai himself was accused. Mr. Boakai himself was accused of promoting the native ticket. So my question to you, and I want to start with Mr. Jonathan this time. What do you make of this ethnic, religious, county, or regional politics in Liberia? And we'll come to the specific, but in general.
In general, which is not different from in particular, is that some of the comments, if we have to use some of the comments made, I think they are irresponsible. Those comments are just unwanted. It demonstrates lack of knowledge, lack of the value system that should be implanted in our kids from whence they become adult to engage our politics with a broad mind. And so our politics should be geared towards implanting values of allegiance, of patriotism, rule of law, and respect for government infrastructure. Those should be the values that every child growing up in Liberia should have. And it should be the background from whence an individual can become a leader, then the tribal, the region, and the county for that aspect. Because none of us chose to become of any tribe. We did not choose to, I didn't choose to come from Nimba and with a background from as far as Guinea. So people trading on the path trying to make their political gains and trying to make the entire politics of our country about tribal. I think it takes me back to the mentality of where we came from, being accusing the oligarchy for so long, and I mean wanting to be part of the government structure and the economic system of our country, and then got divided again because of the junta revolution that deeply separated us on tribal land, like you were saying. So I think we have not either learned from it. And I would say the new Liberia that we want to see, we don't want to see these kind of things hanging around on tribal. You from this background, you are native man. It should be on the worth of what you have done. And the way we as young men should be involved, it should be based on how we implant in our young folks, in our children, the issue of allegiance to country, the issue of patriotism, and when they grow and be patriotic about their country and the nation, they will definitely become some of the bright leaders of our country, then driving it on tribal line, on religious line, on sectional line, that is of no help after 170 plus years to our country.
Thank you. Mr. Kuni, calling a spade is people are not wrong. because these things actually do happen. People actually support politicians based on tribal, religious, or ethnic affiliations. Is that a true statement? That is correct, right? This is not in a vacuum.
Well, Dennis, I think where we have to make the distinction here is that we have to distinguish between someone being very prideful of his tribe, what is called ethnic pride, that maybe somebody from your background is aspiring to office, and because of that pride, you leaning to supporting that person. I think we need to distinguish that from tribalism, where there is this conscious effort, this deliberate effort to impose one tribe over other people. And let me give you an example of ethnic pride. When Barack Obama was running to be president of the United States, there was that ethnic pride. Almost every black man, decided to support Obama. It's just that pride. It wasn't that black people were trying to impose themselves on the rest of the country. And I agree with my brother. Somebody comments that, you play, they are just unfortunate. And for some of us that are really critical of Omer Joseph Yuma Boyka, this is why we remain critical. This man supposed to be the most mature, the most honest, supposed to be the well-mannered man. He has all these surrogates that are pushing these desperate ideas of tribal imposition, these dangerous ideas. I mean, for George Lobo to sit down there and make that kind of reckless statement, I mean, he's talking like somebody who is not even familiar with the history of the country. And these are the surrogates of Ambassador Boyka. These are the surrogate. I mean, the sense of desperation that is coming from Joseph Yuma Boyka, and now only the surrogate. I mean, how the old man speak these days. I mean, he doesn't speak like an elderly statement that project calm or try to introduce calm. Follow all of his statements. He's not going to court. If Unity Party is not on the ticket, there will be no election. I mean, the man is talking like an infantile militant. This is the man that's supposed to be the most balanced person in the room, the most elderly person in the room. And everything coming from his mouth sounds like a rabid militant that is running the street. It is just embarrassing. It is embarrassing. The issue in our country is not tribe. There are no tribes in Liberia that go after one another. Our system is just corrupt to the core. And when corrupt politicians get into power and carry on their corruption, the last thing they go is like they try to create these tribal contradictions. So it is not tribe. The problem in Liberia is not tribe. There is no one tribe that is chasing another tribe in Liberia. So it's just so embarrassing that Joseph Yuma Boyka will be promoting these kind of individuals that promote these dangerous ideas. Obe, he talking about Southeast. This guy was auditioning to be George Weah defense minister. And now he has a problem with George Weah, and we're going to take that kind of comment to be serious. Come on, Dennis. I mean, but it is just astonishing that Yuma Boyka is degenerating to this level. This level. I mean, yet out of his desperation to become chairman of the CPP, he has unraveled the entire CPP by taking, one of his colleagues to court. That's how desperate this man is. And I don't know what got him so unhinged.
Thank you, Mr. Kony. And we're going to come back to you as we deal with this problem, this issue more. Let me go to Jonathan. The idea, because sometimes these things come from us, right? The idea that people will say, what did Joseph Yuma Boyka do to Lofa after 12 years? Or what is we are doing for Southeast and all that kind of thing? That supposes that people, when you are in power, you should do something for your county. So my question is, what are our expectations when it comes to these politicians being in power? What are our expectations that they should, what do we expect them to do for their counties, for their tribe, for their towns, for their villages, and so on and so forth?
And like I said, the entire conversation hangs around, a single most thing that has to do with why development is driven, per the status quo, then it should be driven by the entire geographical landscape of our country. And so that's the background your question coming from the 27 years of state of Tottenham, and then George Weah with the Southeastern and what have you. Look, when you have a duty to the nation and you have an allegiance to the country and you are patriotic about your country, you are a little above just the issue of your home and where you come from. And so those are value systems that we have been lacking as a country. It is obvious, like Colin said, that people of your tribal group will support you to admire the good attributes that person has demonstrated over the period of time to be a candidate, and so they will support you. But you as a candidate that would then turn to be the leader of a nation, when you're lacking allegiance to the country and patriotism, then you resort to only looking up to your people and looking up for your people, like we heard during the day of the 14 years of decadence when it started, when Mr. former President Doe said that he wanted to take all his people from the country to take them out of the country. So it should be about allegiance to country. And when it is allegiance to country, we can have good productivity out of the president. So from the background I come from, I don't think we should be thinking about, or we should harbor in our mind, and whosoever harbors such in his or her mind, that coming to power should just be about his or her people. Obviously, at the bare analysis, it doesn't make sense, because it is not only your people that get you elected, it has to be the entire amalgamation of the geographic that make you a leader.
But Jonathan,
so to yourself, yeah.
Jonathan, I think people in the ANC especially have said something along those lines that what did Bouaka do for Lufa County after he was vice president for 12 years? So there should be an expectation. So maybe the people are the ones pushing these politicians to concern themselves with their own counties or with their own ethnic group. That's what I want you to comment on.
And so to that quickly, that comment had always come out as a consequence of those who have just been coming into the politics. So let me give you a case study. So for instance, Mr. Cummings comes into Liberian politics and someone asks, where has he been? And the question must be answered by those who are asking the question, like in the instance of Ambassador Joseph Nyuma Bouaka. So the ANC people will be asking, what did Ambassador Bouaka do for Liberia, or do for his specific region, or set as an example for which he must be questioning other people's character as to why should they be involved, or his surrogates asking people why should they be involved? Because you have been on taxpayer money, from newspaper to internet to food to housing to electricity for 12 years. So the question now is, what did you do, whether being as humanitarian, being as just contributing in the society, in the neighborhood? That is the question, because you have also asked someone who is a Liberian, why should they get involved into the politics? So I think it's a it's a right back question, as people say, to those who have been asking those who have just entered the politics, and that is where it is coming from. But on the general note, it should not be particularly about what an individual has done. So in this instance, for example, Mr. Cummings does not have to, in my situation, to build something in Maryland. Our people in every area need help. So providing help in any direction, it is not a bad thing. So we must learn how to contribute to our nation in whatever way, whether by education, whether by good value system, whether by material contribution, but some way, somehow, we should be able to contribute to our nation in a positive direction than in a negative direction on the tribal line, like it has been spilled out, in a wrong direction by our colleagues from the Unity Party, who you just read some of their comments.
Thank you.
Dennis, can I add?
Yeah, let me ask you this, and then you can add on it, right? Because it is no secret that President Weah has a lot of people from the southeast, Kru, Grebo, Sapo, or Kran, right? And in fact, while we're doing this, is that even he was able to retain people from the LM government, mainly that are of the Kru ethnic group. I'm talking about Mary Bro, we're talking about Eugene Nambe, and we're talking about Sam Wu is also from the southeast, and for even Wilson Tapper, even though not from the Ellen administration. So there are a lot of Southeastern, we can't deny that. What do you think is driving that? Isn't that feeding into what people are accusing him of? And right now I got a comment here. Somebody said, hey, let the president, the speaker, the pro tem, all are Kru people. So
I don't want to go in the area they put those people in the legislature, they appear deem it necessary that they should be elected to those positions. So that's the business of the legislature. I'm not going to go there. But look, the Weah government, like I've said on this show so many times, the Weah government retained a lot of people from the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf administration. Yeah, some may be Kru, all of them not Kru. The Minister of Internal Affairs is not Kru. Even the airport we're talking about, almost all the top management at that airport were all people that came from the Sirleaf government. The acting managing director, he was there before, and some other executives, they all came from the Sirleaf government. So there were a lot of people that President Weah.
So you are saying the Weah government is not dominated by Kru or Southeasterners? Is that what?
No, I don't have that statistics. It could very well be true, but I don't have that statistics. And again, when we speak about the Southeast thing, let us not make the little error of treating it as one county. The Southeast thing has about 6 counties if you go in the Southeast. So you cannot make the argument that because they are in our region, so all of the counties should not enjoy equal representation in government. It is not one county that is the Southeast. You got 6 Liberian counties that are in the Southeast. So, but that's besides the point. The comment I wanted to make, you asked a question whether is it realistic for people to have these expectations of people from their region that are in government? And I say somewhat yes. For example, if you are in government, say you're sitting in the legislature, especially in the legislature is where the national cake is divided, is where the power is. The national cake is divided. And I think it's a reasonable question, especially if you work in the legislature, for somebody to ask you that during your time at the legislature, what did you do? Because part of your representation in the legislature is not just to sit there in the name of your people, but is to help to allocate some of these resources to the region that you represent. Is part of your legislative responsibility. So if that question for people in the legislature, I think is a little bit legitimate question. If you are serving in the legislature, we see it here all the time. Representatives, senators. You hear about they used to call it poke barrel projects, where they go to battle for these projects for their states, for their different constituency. I'm aware when I first came here, there's a little town they call Tarrytown here in New York, and the only thing that was keeping the economy of that town up was one U.S. battleship that was docked at the port. I mean, whatever military work it was doing, but it was there, and the senator from New York there for the defense ministry, the secretary of defense to cut that. So yes, these are reasonable questions. But to ask somebody to say, what have you done because you come from a county for the resources of our country to be appropriated and allocated on the basis of tribe, that's not something we're supposed to be doing as a country. I mean, we should be developing our country based on our strategic developmental needs. You know, if the country will be advanced by us implementing projects that make economic sense in any region of the country, we should do that whether we come from our country or not. We come from our country or not. And some of the statement that is not factually correct is all the projects going to Southeast. No. Almost all the major road construction going on in Liberia now are roads that are located in what is the major economic corridors of Liberia. That's Nimba. You know, there is no major road construction in the Southeast as we speak. So some of these statements are factually not true. They are not true.
Mr. Dorake, my question to you is still on this whole Southeastern thing. Do you believe we are government is... Yeah. Let me mute you because it's feedback. Do you believe that we are government is dominated by people from Southeastern Liberia? Again, Southeastern Liberia include River G, Sino, Maryland, Grand Cru, Grand Jide, and sometimes River Cess, right? 6 counties. Do you believe the we are government is dominated by Southeasterner? And if the answer is yes, why do you think is that so? Is that tribalism? Is that regional or ethnic politics?
To be honest and factual with you, I don't have all of the statistics, but I can say to a larger extent that the government is dominated by some Easterner. You have listed some of the key strategic places of interest that are dominated by the Southeasterners. The legislature is no exception because the president has a heavy hand over influence over it, and we must state that too. But what is even contradicting is that the entire Southeast combined, and that is the unfortunate thing, looking at the demographic, that the entire Southeastern combined could probably not be equal or more than the county, Nimba County, for instance. So if you were making your judgment and running your decision in that direction, I think it is out of order. Apart from it being unpatriotic or being ungeographically balanced, I think it is just by numerical factor. I think it's just out of order. Or reasonable government that want to govern prudently shouldn't be looking in said direction on a normal basis. Talk less of looking at the normal factors. So yes, indeed, to a larger extent, again, like I say, I don't have the stats on hand, but many of the names that we are familiar with are people who hail from the Southeast. The 3 branches of government are controlled by the Southeast. Operators of the government at some lucrative level or most lucrative level are controlled by the Southeast. And so I think it's just a wrong footing to begin, a government on that premise.
Dennis, quickly. Yeah, like you say, we are speaking of statistics here. So, like I say, it will very well be, but let us also be mindful. When similar question came out regarding the Doe government, and people were able to sit down to compile the list of prominent people in the Doe government. Not only that the Southeastern were not even a critical part of the government, but even Grand Jide as a county, the representation of Grand Jide as a county in the typical Doe cabinet, was not as, the way people made it to be. If you look at, the cabinet of Doe, the SOEs and other things. So, I mean, like I said, I don't have the statistics. It could very well be government is very big, it's very huge. Sometimes maybe hearing the prominent name over and over, maybe every prominent name you hear is a Southeastern name. It may lead you to the conclusion that, we are surrounded by Southeasterners, but the statistics, the actual statistics could point to the contrary. And then moreover, Every government, you look at the decision makers, you look at what they call the president kitchen cabinet, who are in the president kitchen cabinet, because this is where the actual decisions of the country is made. So let's look at the president kitchen cabinet. Is it dominated by Southeasterners? Those are all fair questions to ask and to seek answer to.
Thank you. And my question, so how widespread is this support for politicians based on county or based on tribe? Like I give an example, do most Southeasterners support Wia? Do most Lufens support Mr. Boakai? Do most Nimbayans support Mr. Prince Johnson? Do most people from Maryland support Mr. Cummings, and so on and so forth? Mr. Dolake, what you say to that on the, even though none of us have the statistics, but at least we know people who know people, and we see some things, right? So how widespread is this practice, and what is the impact?
I think the impact, you could judge it from 2017, moving to 2017 and 2017, and during the 2017 presidential and representative elections. So people had a belief, and for specific candidates like Ambassador Weah, it was believed that he would have performed quite well. Likewise, Ambassador Joseph Nyama Boakai, similar thing, and Senator Prince Johnson as well too. But given the change in time in politics, it had demonstrated quite clearly today that those beliefs and concepts are not in their good numbers as it is perceived to be. And there are realistic indicators towards that. Take, for instance, since the coming to power of the Weah government, the government have been on a reverse gear, then it have been forward, it have been engaged in a forward march. And so, I mean, Liberians, what are the Southeasterners, people in the CDC, they are getting even more disappointed. That is why you see today the Ober and the rest of the guys, some for personal reasons, some for legitimate national interest reasons, they are driven away from that government, and the performance of the government can be x-rayed by the 2020 senatorial election in itself. Likewise, Ambassador Boakai too. Ambassador Boakai was believed to be an individual who was not rightfully treated, by his former boss, as again per perception. But after the 2017 elections, rolling down the 2018-2019, it became quite visible, and the CPP process under his leadership also further exposed, the issue of leadership gap, because there have always been this Parker, there had not been opportunity, he had not been given a chance, and so the best chance given him was under the CPP leadership, and the demonstration thereafter clearly can be seen that, the former vice president does not have that grip on the second county with more tribal groups called Lufa County. So, it is speaking itself of in an everyday situation. So, moving towards 2023, it is not what it used to be. That's the realistic posture of the current situation at hand. The issue of Lufa County with that of Brandon Simicast is a separate situation all by itself, and we cannot dilute it with Ambassador Boakai and their own constituent. So Senator Prince Johnson, who has survived on fear tactics, being a warmonger, the 14 years decadence of our country, and due to the lack of understanding of our people, because I'm from Nimba County too, of our people to separate this man Gorilla affair or his Civil War affairs from that of being a prudent and responsible leader. it has given it gave him in the past glamour of feeling that indeed he's on top of the game and he's the best person, and he used the fear tactics that there could be war eruption anywhere, and a civil unrest at any time, and he would then be the hero. But again, no one wants a leader that will be banned by the United States of America or traditional ally to Liberia, mother of democracy. And so having a Prince Johnson being a leader, I think the way he commended people before, it is not as same as it is today. Even moving forward with all of what hangs over his head, he doesn't travel freely out of the country. No one wants that representation to be in such a manner. And that is why Senator Prince Johnson campaigned to a larger extent 2014 against Madam Ide Gonglo, unless 2005. So there's a diminishing process in these characters just listed as regard to their popularity per constituent. And that is why Mr. Cummings have now seen it wise to just base your constituent on region and where you come from. Because at the end of the day, you will still need the collective willpower of the rest of the Liberian population to build up that constituent for you in order to winning the presidency of the country. And so you need to touch every facet of our society than just being focused and depending on that particular county, like in the instance of 2017, where Ambassador Bouaka was only able to win Lofa, yet could not win the rest of the country.
Thank you. Let me ask you a simple question before we move to Mr. Kony. Do you believe that Mr. Joseph Newman Bouaka, do you believe he should disavow or dissociate himself from the people that are making this kind of comment? Because he was being accused of fomenting this ethnic or this tribal divide, and he was called out by his own colleague, the late Charles Bromskin. Do you believe that he should make a public statement to disavow what Obe is saying or what Mr. Lobo is saying?
Look, to be very honest with you, I have a great deal of respect for Ambassador Joseph Newman Bouaka, and I would not try to discount that respect outside the context of our conversation, and I would like to speak directly to the conversation. I know for a fact that Ambassador Bouaka could not allow or was not able to make a decision in a deputy speaker election that involved at the time Representative Clarence Massaquoi of the Lawman tribe against Representative Numale of the Kisi tribe. And why of the current deputy speaker, Fanadi Kofa, was trying to galvanize momentum in the opposition as well as the ruling establishment. We had two persons coming from the opposition community, particularly the Unity Party, and Ambassador Bouaka could not advise, and it was established that he could not make any decision because he never wanted to make Numale, who come from a tribal group, to feel bad, though Massaquoi could cut across both the opposition and the ruling establishment because of his being a young man. And so it speaks to a point directly to some of the statements that are coming from other people like George Lobo, who was clearly saying on a tip, instructing Ambassador Bouaka. So to delineate between those, whether Ambassador Bouaka has appropriated those statements or he can distance himself from those statements is quite a difficult thing for me, to be quite honest, if I'm to speak my honest mind.
Thank you. Mr. Kony, most of these tribal divisions, sometimes they have been fomented by politicians because politicians are crafty, they want to score political points. So in the case of Mr. Bouaka, who has not been seen clearly disavowing or dissociating himself from this kind of divisive statements, To what extent do we place the burdens at the feet of politicians who use our people or the divide and rule tactics so that they can get power? Example being Mr. Bwaka here.
Yeah, that is. I mean, what you said is quite true. But what is also true is that one politician who has never played the tribal card in Liberia is Ambassador George Weah. Weah has always used his own story of accomplishment to inspire Liberian youth, to inspire the Liberian people. He never really played the tribal card anywhere. Like we all know here, even the tribe that the Southeastern tribe in terms of population is insignificant to make Weah president. So he's not one of the politicians that uses the tribal card. There may be other charges people want to put against him, but when it comes to tribalism, Weah has not displayed any tribal leaning to boost his political career. But when it comes to Ambassador Bwaka, really, when it comes to Ambassador Bwaka, I mean, I want to believe Ambassador Bwaka essentially believes the things that his surrogate says. He believed that. I mean, this old man is supposed to be the unifier. Look, the old man came to Philadelphia, and guess who was heading this old man program? A divisive element like Henry Costa was the one that was promoting the program. Somebody talk about our democracy. I hope that our democracy will reach the day where politicians will be held accountable not only for what they say, but who they associate with. I hope we're going to reach that point. That is, we shouldn't just judge you on what you say, but who are your associates? So these are Ambassador Bwaka's closest associates. And like I said, I don't know how he can disavow those statements when he himself is making statements that are very controversial, statements that are lawless. If you check it. So I don't think, he has the ability to do that. I think those are things that he believes in. And whether he will disavow it or not, I leave it to his own decision making. That's not an advice that I'm going to give him here on FOL.
Thank you. And Cole, I know you drop off a bit, but what we are discussing is the idea of this tribal divisive politics, and then so the question I have for you is, because most of the time we hear people say, what did Joseph Bwaka do for Lofa after 12 years? Or Todmont for Maryland County. What are the expectations? Why is it that we expect the president to do things for their tribe or their ethnic group? And how widespread is this politics based on ethnic line? Is it something we perceive, or is it real?
I mean, it is definitely real, and it's rooted in history. Liberia doesn't really have, like many Liberians, nationalism, a sense of nationalism is new to many Liberians. And we come from a very diverse country, ethnically diverse country, and we come from very diverse political, historical backgrounds as well. So there are clear distinctions. So what I'm going to do before I start talking about why tribalism is bad is I'm going to try to explain why it exists in Liberia. Okay. When the country was established, there were nations within the territory, autonomous nations existing in conflict, and alliances were existing between them. Conflicts and wars were existing between them. So you already had like a cultural cohesion among the north central population, which later became Nimba, Lofa, and Bong, divided into those counties. A lot of those things are deeply rooted in very old nations that existed before Liberia. So I personally don't like to use the word tribe to describe these distinct ethnic groups that exist in Liberia, because they're not tribes, they're ethnic groups and even nations. And so when the whole concept of this unification program and all of this, the whole purpose of that, what Tubman was trying to do, he was trying very hard to dismantle these independent or almost autonomous and sovereign existences within the confines and the territory of Liberia. So you have very old, very ancient cultural alliances. We talk about Boykai, we talk about the North Central Territory. If you wonder why you see a lot of people in Nimba behind Samukai, why you see a lot of people in Bong behind Samukai, Nimba, Lofa, and Bong are not just the most populated. That area has a very old pre-Liberia connection, that North Central corridor of the Republic of Liberia. They were a nation unto themselves until very recently. So it doesn't take, it takes many generations and some deliberate work on government to teach people civics and to create an atmosphere of national identity. We're still very, what is the word? Traditional in the way that we see ourselves. We don't really understand, in general terms, of course, not each individual in Liberia, but generally speaking, Liberians haven't yet bought into this concept. We say we're Liberian, but really people are putting their old national alliances first before the country. And this is dangerous, extremely dangerous, because we cannot survive, with this kind of, we can't survive. So the reason people form clan alliances, national alliances, and all these things is basically for survival. Europeans very recently stamped out a lot of this with the EU. And Pan-Africanism, again, is born out of this idea that we need to, in order to survive, the tribe must die. In order for the nation to live, the tribe must die. They don't mean literally kill your tribe. They mean put the nation before your tribe. So this isn't also unique to Liberia. The problem I'm having is when you have people who don't understand where it came from, they're not going to know how to fix it. It's not enough to just say, oh, everybody stop being tribalistic and start looking at a nation. You have to understand why people think this way, and you have to convince them that it's better for your survival, for our collective survival, to stop thinking this way. Expand the concept of your tribe. Expand the concept of your belief system. So instead of your tribe just being the people who speak your language, the people from your region, expand that loyalty to a broader picture. Your region cannot survive without the greater Liberia. Yeah. Your Liberia cannot exist or survive really without the support of the greater West Africa. And until we start to understand that, we're not going to evolve past this thinking. Tribal bands and family clans, those alliances exist because of survival. And as the world changes, we need to change those alliances for the exact same reason, in order to survive. As far as Mr. Cooney's, and that's what I'm going to stop there. That's the context. Now, as far as Mr. Cooney's statement about we are not being tribalistic, he does have tribe-based thinking. I mean, it's a common thing in Liberia, and he succumbs to it. He tries to present himself as if he doesn't, but he absolutely does. The only 3 ministers that he retained from Ellen Johnson Sirleaf's administration were Kru. The only 3 ministers he retained from Ellen Johnson Sirleaf's administration were Kru. My friend Len Eugene Nangbe, my friend Sam Wu, and my dear friend Mary Bro. These are the 3 people that he retained from Ellen Johnson Sirleaf's administration and kept them in their same positions. And until recently, when he sent Len Eugene Nangbe to Maritime, but all 3 of those Kru ministers remained in their positions and continue to remain in their positions, right? So again, with the exception of Len Eugene Nangbe, who was sent to Maritime, which many people feel was a promotion. So we have to be honest when we're talking about these things. To talk about people being tribalistic and making them out to be boogeymen, I think is problematic. I think that, and the reason is because this is the society, the culture. It comes from somewhere. It didn't just erupt from nothing. When we had this war and people started to, cling to their ancient alliances and started doing things, it didn't come from nowhere. It's based in history. So we have to acknowledge that. And in order to correct it, we have to understand how it came to exist. And we need to come up with a better model, a better way of seeing ourselves. And then we could replace the tribalism, which again is a survival, it evolved because of the need to survive, right? We can replace that with a better model, which is national identity and respecting the country and putting the needs of your fellow citizens first.
Thank you, Cole. Thank you for laying that out. And I think
can I make a quick correction?
Yeah, coming.
Yeah,
in one discussion, go ahead, Mr. Kuni.
I think the point I was making was people using tribalism as a political, as an electoral strategy. And my statement was that we didn't promote tribalism like the way you see Ambassador Waka campaign is actively promoting and trying to defame an entire region of the country in that manner, in that demeaning manner. That was not the way we are promoted his political.
I see. I understand now. Thanks for the clarification.
We have promoted a political career by telling his ordinary story. And the other correction is another minister that was retained that is now crew is the current internal affairs minister. He's not crew. I just wanted to make that correction.
He was not retained. He was not retained. He was appointed by WEA.
Thank you. All right. So what I was saying is, and Carl, thank you for laying that out. During the war, and I made this, Jonathan, because of the feedback. So when you are not speaking, that's why you should be muted, because there's a big feedback coming from you. But I'll give you a chance after this. So during the war, when there was no central government and everybody was chasing everybody to kill, people went to their ethnic alliances because that was the only way they could survive. So you have the Loma Defense Force, you have all the defense forces, even the little section of Grebo in Sino County that was being pursued by the LPC forces for extinction formed the Grebo Defense Force. So everybody cling to their ethnic group for protection. So, Carl, I agree when you say survivor. But here is my question, because I asked the big question that say, is this thing a Liberian thing, or is it an African problem that we all do this ethnicity thing? Or is it what people mean when they say all politics is local? So if you are from Tabata, like Kuni, and you want to run for office, you first go to your people in your little village, and so your own ethnic group people will be the first group to rally around you. So is that what it means? And also, based on how we talk about these things, how we promote it, is that what drives people to target a particular ethnic group based on their affiliation or member of the ethnic group, like what we saw with President Doe and Strongman Kuramba, and it went on and on. So when these languages, things like this are coming from people like Obe and George Lobo, who all support Mr. Bwaka, I'm beginning to worry that such they also drive what we may not like to hear about ethnic cleansing. And Jonathan, I want you to comment.
First, before I comment on the ethnic stuff as to whether it is what drive, our leadership agenda, or it is what it is due to ethnicity that people take action against a particular group of people. I first want to correct, because we're talking history, we're talking allegiance, we're talking commitment to nation and nationalism. And so on that brink, Samuel Wuru is either Sapo or the Crown for the fight. Thank you.
Most people out of that area will group, everyone has crew, but it's Sapo, I believe.
Thank you. And so I will start from the bottom. So to make a judgment, and it is wrong for those who act in that manner to think that because a particular person, sometimes it comes out as a result of a court ruling, because the person may have attempted to have overthrew and thought to have overthrew a particular government, or it is presumed that this person is a threat, and so there is the blanket guilt or collective guilt that is associated with the entire tribe. I think it is, again, the foundation of this conversation was on the issue of ethnicity. And my position was that we have not been grown to having allegiance to nation, having been patriotic about our country, and training our children to be patriotic. And because if you have been, or you have grew up to have been, you would definitely understand that every individual should be responsible for his or her own action than using a collective guilt to summarily deal with an entire tribal group or ethnic group because of one individual character or misbehavior towards the state of the country. And so it is all reduced to the same conversation that we have been having, that nationalism, patriotism, there will always be love of a tribe. I'm a Mana person, grew as Mana person. If I'm successful, every Mana person is going to be proud of me. I mean, that is an upright thing, but I cannot be judged because I'm a Mana person or have done wrong, and then all Mana people come to defend my wrongdoing. And so it compelled the government itself to go against those Mana people who are defending me. So it's a kind of thing that has to do about our civic, about understanding the rule of law, understanding allegiance, understanding patriotism, understanding where we have to deal with tribal business as tribe, because we have to come from somewhere. Absolutely. Even those who are believed to have come from the American Liberians have to come from somewhere. So bottom line here is that a government that governs prudently should not be a government that should be running after people because of their tribal affiliation or because those individuals pose threat either through electoral process against their interests.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, this is Focus on Liberia, and this is Tough Talking Thursday. And we're discussing ethnic, county, or regional politics in Liberia. What's responsible? What the impact? At this time, we want to welcome all of those. If you want to call in to make your comments, the number is on the screen, 605-313-6004. The code is 791403. And so let's your call roll in. We'll take a short break. And when we come back, we're going to read your comments and take calls.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
Thank you and welcome back to Focus on Liberia. We have a caller on the line, and that caller is Mr. Elvis Morris. Elvis, you're live. Oh, sorry. Elvis, go ahead. Sorry.
All right. Thank you again, Mr. John, for taking my call. I just want to chime in quickly on the conversation tonight. Myself, just a quick background myself. My mother is from Grand Bassa. My father is from Grand Jida. Married to a crew woman from Grand Crew. Her mother is from Lima County. So again, like most people say, we're interwoven group of people. But personally, there's a saying: the great men build their circle around their villages. The greatest of men build their circumference around the earth. So I think, like Ms. Cole was saying, we have to become more nationalistic in our way of thinking and open our arms and embrace every ethnic group in Liberia. But for me personally, perhaps I haven't been enlightened far enough. But of course, we all have some tribal loyalty or tribal affiliations. You know, although I'm a proud man, but when George Weah became president, I felt a sense of pride because I felt like he came from my region. And if most of us are being honest, you know, for some of us who are from the southeast, you know, we tend to gravitate towards our own. And I think it's like that for most tribes in Liberia. You know, people from Nimba or people from Norfolk, they tend to gravitate towards people who they feel represent their interests the best. Somebody who comes from their quote unquote household. So this is an issue that I think it will take a national effort for most of us to kind of disassociate ourselves a little more from our tribal lineage.
Yeah,
you know, so I just want to make that. Go ahead, Mr. John.
Yeah, Evan. So gravitating towards someone from your ethnic group, what does that mean? Take for instance, if the Weah government is bad or is doing very bad, like in the airport situation, like unexplained death, etc., etc. Do you still support that, or will you, because you come from the southeast, or because you are crying and that's his crew, or will you sometimes say, hey, will you be bold enough to criticize him openly and don't say, well, even though this is bad, but I'm not going to say it because I'm of the same ethnic group? What is that gravitating towards your ethnic group look like?
No, you know, my statement actually, perhaps I didn't say it so eloquently, but it was in the past tense. You know, right now as we stand, my candidate for presidency is Tyrone Gonga. That's who I support. You know, I think that his braveness, his activism, standing up against dictators, being a brave a lawyer who's always been on the side of the law, I gravitate towards him. I see him as a Liberian hero. That's my candidate right now. Although I think it will be a far fetch for him to win the presidency, but that's my candidate. I stopped supporting George Weah a long time ago. But initially, I was very proud of him. You know, I felt some association with him through marriage and through our region. But that's it. Thank you again for taking my call.
Thank you. Let me bring on Mr. Tony Liwe. Mr. Liwe.
Yes, sir.
Welcome to the show. Question or comment, please.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Mr. Ja, I think that Mr. Coney should not be this so-called chief political analyst on this show. He is so biased that all of what he talks about is promoting this TDC government. Such a person should not be on this major platform that people have considered, you know, the best, a pluralistic platform that exists in our midst. So I think that Mr. Coney's comment from the onset contradicts what he just said earlier about, you know, the government not being controlled by the Southeasterners. He went on to also say that those issue of national cake is divided by the legislature. But what he also failed to understand is that legislature is largely also controlled by the Southeasterners who distribute the national cake. So I'm not sure where he's coming from with all these political jargon. He thinks he can manipulate the minds of Liberians to believe. But I think he's very disingenuous, should not be on this platform. And most of my comments are written for you to read if you have the time. I will not take most of the time on this comment. I mean, on this subject. But thank you so much.
Thank you. And Mr. Lieber, before you go, Focus on Liberia is run on charity, so we don't have money to pay. So Kuni, who is here as a volunteer, if you want me to fire him, the next person I bring in when they ask for money, where will we get the money from?
I will contribute.
All right.
Target.
No, hold on now. This is serious.
I got your point, Mr. Lewy.
Without political affiliation like the Connie, he is too raw on his advocacy. You know that. He and I've been on the topic before.
All right, Mr. Tony Lewy, I want to welcome you in to be an analyst so you can counter some of his points, because we want people from all sides to be represented right here.
I will appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me take this next caller here. Is that Sylvester Bajolo?
Yes.
Go ahead, sir. You're live.
How y'all doing, sir?
Excellent.
How you doing? I've been listening to you guys. I really appreciate the topic and things like that. You know, as for me, the way I look at things, my last caller is kind of the same thing you guys are talking about is the same attack that he's giving the gentleman on the platform here. You know, listen to the man, disagree with him, and whatever agreements you have, you can reach out to him and try to get, some of his thoughts and he would understand where he comes from would be a preferable thing, you know. But I appreciate the topic. Patriotism, like you guys say, it comes from individual, but we lack those things because for years, sometimes you have to dig deeper into your roots and our history for us to be able to find the root cause of how you got at those things. And we are stepping overboard. We're not really looking at the broader picture of these things. We gotta look at where it started, the beginning of it, because you know, for me, I look at the problem. It starts from the American Liberia. It starts from the slaves that left from here, their ideology, their separation of of the natives that was on the ground and things like that. The infighting and them trying to hold power by putting us against each other. And we're forgetting about those things. We're just jumping from one place to junction to the next junction. For me, I'm a crime man, I'm a lover man. But let me tell you something. My lover side is more racist than my crime side. They're more tribalistic than, I think somebody said it earlier. You understand? You get to see the hate. You understand? I came to this country in 1990 and I saw the difference that the things that people said about crime people and things like that. And my father didn't even work in government. You understand? And things like that. And those things, it has to stop because people are more pointing to the Southeasterner more as being the people that are tribalistic. But if you look at the Loma, the Kiki, the Pele people, and most of these people in Liberia, they're more tribalistic and more racist. So
thank you, Sylvester.
Yeah,
So
Dennis?
I just wanted to...
Cut that off, Dennis. That's not right.
Thank you, because you accuse
cut that off. I'm
people,
surprised you let that go on as long as you
the
did.
Loma, everybody. But let me bring up Dr. Batam Kula. Dr. Kula, quickly, and we are running out of time here, so 1 minute, please. Dr. Kula.
Well, 1 minute won't suffice. 1 minute won't suffice for what I have to say. But let's just put it this way.
Yeah, let's try.
I should have been on the show, but I was busy. But the reality is this. We have to celebrate our diversity. There's beauty in diversity. There's beauty in a multiplicity of ethnicity. But at the same time, we have to look for that unity that underlies that diversity. It doesn't come by magic. There was once upon a time here in America, the Irish used to call themselves Irish American, Italian American, this American, that American. But somebody said, I was listening to something, some American military man said that after they had their Civil War, that's when they started to look at themselves as Americans and they cut off those labels.
That's not true, Barton. That's not true. Most of these people came here after the Civil War. Most of these Europeans came here after the Civil War.
Hold on, Carl. Let's finish. Go ahead, Dr. Kula, conclude, please.
All right. So what am I saying here? For us to get to the point where we look at ourselves as Liberians first, before our ethnicity, that has to be something that'll be taught not only by the school system and civics and all of that, but families and the church and everybody as a whole. We have to do what is called nation building. I don't think Liberia has really been in the process of doing nation building. Now, Cole, I guess you're trying to correct what I said. I said I heard somebody say that.
Yeah, okay.
I'm correcting what was said, not you, but the information you're presenting. It's not you. Don't take it personal. I just wanted to correct the information you're presenting. That is dangerous. Most of these people came after the Civil War. That's important. That's important. That's an important thing to know.
He said, I'll try to find that documentation.
All right.
Well, the person who narrated
let us not go into that more, Dr. Kula. Just make your...
In any case, no, in any case, Dennis, you like to cut people off too much. In any case, the point the person was trying to make is that something has to gel the society together, where the society looks at itself as a whole, as one. But in any society, anywhere in the world, there is ethnicity will always gravitate
towards their ethnicity. Right here in Gwinnett County, the Bosnians are together. This group is together. That group. That's how it is. But we have to find a way to be nationalistic. That's what we have to do.
Thank you.
That's what I have to say.
Thank you, Dr. Kula. Let me take the last caller. Oh, the last caller here. Your name and where you calling from, please.
Yeah, my name is Mark. I'm calling from Virginia. I think I'm disagreeing with the gentleman there.
Mr. Colley, please give a little volume. You are low.
Yeah, I'm easy if you were to go to Sierra Leone, Guinea, Africa, Nigeria, wherever.
Mr. Colley, you are low. Please give it a little volume.
Okay. Are you getting me now?
Still low, but go ahead.
People go to usually based on religion or tribe. That is true. Everywhere. Then the next thing I want to say is that if you were to look at the whole Southeast, Grand River, Maryland, Grand Creek, Riverside, Fargo, all of them, their whole population is not equal to one country. This combined all is not equal. Check it out. Or equal to look for. No. But yet, they are carrying almost 25% of all the top guys in the security sector, all the top guys in government, including the president, of course, speaker, heritage speaker, all of them. And you're talking about 5 billion population. And just about 1 million people in that country taking everything. Less than 1 million, it will say about 300,000. Is that really right?
Thank you.
It's not right.
Thank you.
Has to change. Nigeria belongs to all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You heard our callers. Call. Let me start with you. Your response.
Yeah, I just want, Barton, you made a good point, but I just, it is important for us as Africans to know that the masses of Europeans came to the United States far after the Civil War. And the world, Dennis, you asked a very important question. The question you asked was, I'm sorry, one second. The question that you asked that's very important is, was this something that people practice all over, tribalism? And the answer is absolutely yes. It's a human condition. People tend, and again, it's the evolution of survival. Your family unit, your community, these are things you cling to. It is natural. In the United States, contrary to what was just said by Dr. Kula, there are still very strong European ethnic, divisions in the United States. The Irish Catholic people have a very strong unit. They have societies they belong to, and no one else can penetrate those but Irish Catholics. It's the same with the people who are Welsh in Minnesota, where I grew up. If you are Scandinavian, if you're from Norway, there is a special a place laid out because those were the original people that moved into Norway after they massacred all the to Minnesota after they killed all the native people. They massacred all the native people. The Norwegians moved in. They have the control of the soil. So all of the banking systems, everything is controlled by them. So this idea that tribalism is unique to African people is racist. The problem is, that other groups of people have understood and they have evolved in their concept of tribe. So within the many divisions in Europe, nobody's had more bloody tribal wars than Europe. Nobody. Europeans would have wiped each other out if smarter Europeans didn't come together and say, you know what? We should unite, around this fake identity called whiteness. We should just call ourselves white. And everyone that looks like us, we should unite and form an alliance against the rest of the world, which is exactly what happened. Pan-Africanism is a response to this. Pan-Africanism is a response to this. It is not, it is a survival mechanism. This concept of put your tribe behind you, hold it to your chest, your cultural identity, the parts that are necessary to make you strong and better, hold on to it. But the parts that are destructive, that are not aiding your survival, get rid of it.
Right.
You understand? So our ancestors, and then the other caller, I don't want to hog the show, but the other caller was appalling. This person that said that Lama people are tribalistic and more tribalistic, and Congo people are the ones that cause tribalism. I mean, what a bunch of ignorance to spew and state your name and put your name behind. That is the most ignorant thing, and that ignorance is what the problem is. How can you say American Liberians created tribalism? Do you know how old our people are? Do you know how old these ethnic groups have existed on the Grain Coast before even these people's ancestors were sold into slavery, before there even was a slave in the Northern Hemisphere, in the Western Hemisphere? We had existed before that. We had our conflicts before that. To imply that some people came as recently as 1822 and created conflicts among people as old as we are is absurd. How does that even make sense to an adult mind? And it's because, again, it's the miseducation system in Liberia. It's too simplistic. We don't tell the whole story. We don't tell the truth. And we don't know enough about ourselves as so-called indigenous people. If we knew more about ourselves, we wouldn't be in the situation we're in. We would respect ourselves more. We would know that nobody came and made us into puppets and manipulated us. Our ancestors were not stupid. I repeat that on every single show that I go on. And so I'm going to leave it at that. I'm not going to hog the show, but those are the 2 points I wanted to make. Thanks, Dennis.
Thank you. Mr. Cooney, quickly to the callers. Mr. Cooney.
My brother Tony never ceases to amaze me, especially in the area of his intolerance. If you cannot stand the view of the person, you cancel him. I mean, is this the kind of the country that we want to build? If you can't stand the view that somebody expressed, all you do just sack the person, move the person. We
He
come
said
on
he
this
will
show.
pay to sack you. He said he will pay money to sack you.
I can even see him paying to jail me. This is how this mentality develops, because he dislikes what I say. I can see him paying to do anything. And these are the kind of dangerous thoughts, that we have to counter on this show. We come to this show with our different perspectives. We forcefully express our views. There are areas we agree, there are areas we disagree. Unfortunately, the points that I made, he didn't say anything to refute them. It is the legislature that divided national cake. The Kru people didn't meet as a tribe to elect the leaders of the legislature. The legislature met among themselves as co-equals and elected their leaders. So how is that tribalism? So, it's just unfortunate that Liberians we are adapting this sense of cancel culture. If I don't agree with you, I got to cancel you. I got to do this to you. I got to pay for this thing to happen to you. And unfortunately, Tony has been like that for a very long time. I thought over time he may have altered his view, but he's still stubbornly the same way.
Thank you. Mr. Dulake.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Ja, and thanks to the other panelists for their throw-in into this conversation. I think basically we have had the conversation around ethnicity and tribalism. Ethnicity is a value system. It defines where we come from. It creates security for us based on our mutual bonds. It is the melting pot of the African foundation. It also provides for us a common language that tell our story. It also tells us our ancestral background, where we come from, to give it an appreciation. It is absolutely different from people believing in just one tribe and just wanting that tribe to be a dominating faction of an entire nation. So there's a separate thing between them. And lastly, just before I close, let me establish that our democracy is foundation, or it is guarded by our Constitution. And because it is guarded by our Constitution, when I listen to the panelists in person, of course, say the CPP agreement was an anti-competitive agreement, a backfootment for the fact that in our constitution we have contract law that borders on contract as well as freedom of expression and association.
That's not true. That's not true. What is the article in the Constitution that deals with contract? What is the article in the Constitution that deals with contract?
Hold on, Carl.
But don't allow people to misinform the public.
No,
it's not. It's not misinforming the public. There's a provision in our constitution. I cannot be specific.
When you were talking. So let's Jonathan finish.
If I lie, I should be interrupted.
Carl, this is not a debate between both of us, and I cannot be. To be honest with you, I cannot state it uprightly, but there's a provision in our constitution which you cannot challenge because it can be proven, and I will send it to you immediately after the show, that every contract agreed to or that has to do with agreement, and you can debate that all by yourself. You're interrupting. You can have the benefit of
it's Article 25, but go ahead.
Okay, thank you for it. I think it's better that you read it so she hear it, then we can explain it. But what it says in essence is that even if you agree to a marriage, which is a contract by in itself, there must be a mechanism to exit that marriage. That is just what I want to say in simple. And so it is not an anti-competitive stuff. I know you have said all that in one group that we all belong to. Nobody stopped even call from participating in the CPP process and being a standard bearer of the Unity Party. You have a responsibility to have brought forth your best suited candidate. And so to call an anti-competitive agreement, I think it just outside itself. That's what I want to close with.
Thank you. And let me call before you come in to respond. Article 25, obligation of contract shall be guaranteed by the Republic, and no law shall be passed which might impair this right. I think that's what you were referring to. But again, it was the when I interviewed Mr. Councillor To here, and he likened the no, it was not an interview. He likened the CPP framework document to a non-compete clause. That is, you're working with this company. If you leave, you cannot work for a competitor. Like for my company, if you leave, I can work with a vendor, I can work with my client, and I can work with a competitor. Call quickly, you can come in. All right. Call if we can.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so the context again of Article 25 is not what people think it is. It is not saying that if you have a contract between two parties, that the consequence of this is that you are going to lose your right to run for office, your civil rights, you're going to lose your right to vote for the candidate you choose, you're going to lose your right to participate in the democratic process. I mean, that's just crazy. But as far as it being an anti-competitive agreement, whenever you go into an agreement with someone and you say, when you leave, you're no longer allowed to participate in democracy, that itself is a violation of the Constitution, and that's anti-competitive. Whenever you put in rules that say if someone leaves, they're not allowed to proceed on their own, that's problematic. Anyway, I mean, like I said, I don't want to hog the show with this. I've already made my points. Mr. Dolaquette knows my point of view. He's known my point of view, and at no time was any suggestion that I have ever made to him or any of those unqualified people who sat around and drafted this document been taken into consideration.
All right, thank you. At this time, thank you so much. We have a lot of comments. Let me see if I can read a few of them. Then we go into our session we call the Tabata session. Mr. Dolaquette, this is your first time on Tough Talking Thursday. Every Thursday, we devote time for you to state your Tabata of the week. Tabata in the Southeastern language means nonsense, foolishness. So every day, there is some foolishness going on in Liberia, and we are not afraid to point it out. But few comments here. This one from Tony Lewe on the issue of ethnicity. Until the leadership of our society make a serious effort at reconciliation, especially given our recent past, Liberia will continue to experience ethnic groupings. Liberia will be buried if President Weah goes for a second term. Looking at what is going on at his first term. Haruna Keita, Wilmore, why is it that the Southeast voted Weah overwhelmingly twice? Call just summarized the problem and provided solutions. Achimo Frederick, I don't associate my politics with Mr. Coney, but I appreciate him on FOL, and I do appreciate Mr. Coney as well. Jimmy Eastman, that is true, Carl. There was a large influx of Europeans after the Civil War. This is one of the contentions of African Americans. They have been denied rights over immigrants, even though they have built this country over 400 years. This one from Faboli Kroma. Mr. Jack, can any of your panelists tell us the root of this collective guilt syndrome that has permeated the minds of Liberians? Besides, I also believe that the removal of the teaching of civic education from the curriculum by late President Doe may have eroded some of our nationalistic characters. The last comment here from, there was Dumba. Look, first there's a correction from Mr. Elder Joseph Cook. Correction, then it's Lofa Defense Force, now Loma Defense Force. Thank you for that correction. I remember it was also called Loma Defense Force, and people refined the name as Lofa Defense Force. George Dumba's grandson, Call, is a true historian. She will not allow misinformation on this platform. Well, those are a few of our comments. Sorry, we don't have much time to go into it. We've already reached our 2-hour mark. So at this time, we go into our session. What is your Tabata of the week? And Mr. Cooney, I know you missed 2 weeks, so if you can even combine 2 weeks of Tabata, we have room for that. Let me start with you, Mr. Cooney.
Well, to be honest with you, my Tabata for the week is this this continuing failure of electricity at the airport. I think it's a serious Tabata. It's not only Tabata, it's a dangerous Tabata. We cannot run an international airport where, you know, we'll be facing electricity problem, flights aborting, passengers landing, and then there is no light. I think it's a serious national Tabata, and I'm calling on my president to take the necessary action so that, you know, that incident will not repeat itself anymore. Thank you.
Call, what's your Tabata of the week?
You actually brought the Tabata to my attention. I didn't know that Unity Party went to the U.S. Embassy to go protest. I am disgusted and disturbed, and I think that was very unpatriotic of them. I think they should have carried the protest to the Chief Justice House or to to the Capitol building. Take it to our people. Take it to our people. We've got elected officials in office that could summons people for questioning and ask them about the constitutionality of the case that was brought before NEC. No Unity Party lawmaker has done so. Carry a protest to their doors. The U.S. government did not write the CPP contract. That nonsense. The U.S. government did not participate in electing Weah, as far as I know. Even though they interfered in the past, I don't believe they were responsible for Weah's presidency. I think the Liberian people elected him. So take it to Weah. Take it anywhere. Take it anywhere but the U.S. embassy. Don't go. I mean, the idea that you go to a foreign country's embassy to protest your own government, if that doesn't make you, if that isn't ridiculous in your eyes, then something's wrong. Then you don't understand what a country is. Then you don't have the slightest respect for Liberia. And if you don't respect Liberia, you shouldn't be in politics. The whole reason people get involved in politics is to advance the cause of the nation, not to degrade it, not to belittle it, not to diminish it, not to make yourselves look like beggars or like you haven't come from people. If we understood why we even still exist as a country with everything we've been through, we would never subject ourselves to the disgrace of going to beg a foreign country's embassy, not even for money or food, but for political interference. That's a shame.
Thank you. Jonathan, what's your Tabata of the week?
My Tabata of the week is...
Jonathan entitled to 2 Tabata like first time.
Okay. Thank you, Connie. So my first Tabata is the fact that my friend and brother who served as a secretary on the committee of the CPP VPS committee, Mr. Muali, is saying that he's not a Christian or Muslim or believer in anything to swear to an oath. It's a serious Tabata that an individual cannot bound himself to talking the truth and being honest. That speaks to the needs of our country and where our country seems to be wanting to go. And the second Tabata will do with the airport. It is a serious matter. I mean, a matter that concerns even those of us in the United States. If we should intend going back to our country, how will we arrive? Talk less before we even talk about the issue of investors and what have you. It is embarrassing. But again, like I said, it is not highly disappointed from my own background because I knew that this kind of government will have it. And it is just embarrassing that we'll have an airport being unable to land on.
Thank you.
Thank you. If I knew I would have to get the second Tabata.
and he really, being the first time on this show, he handled the Tabata very well. And so that's a plus. My own Tabata of the week is we got a report of a school funded by the US-based cleric Fethullah Gulen, a Turkish guy. He's in the States now. That he's running a school in Liberia, and the government of Liberia closed down the school, or they deported the leadership or the administration, the administrators of that school, because the president of Turkey asked them to do so. I believe, and then I think this was done secretly, was reported in the newspaper, and the charge against them is they are practicing terrorism and stuff like that. I think that is dangerous. I don't know if the government is really aware of the impact and the implication of that move. To me, that's the biggest Tabata of the week. Well, thank you so much for participating tonight. We'll now go around the room for your closing comments as we try to draw down the curtains. But I have a request here from Mr. Tony Liwe. He said, Dennis, I beg you, please, I have written something to in response to Mr. Cooney. So, Mr. Cooney, Tony is now letting this go.
I ready to debate him every time. And whatever he write, I will respond to it.
So he said, no, Mr. Cooney, I'm not suggesting that because I disagree with you, you should be fired. My suggestion is that FOL is an open and patriotic platform that should have hosts who discuss issues of national interest with a level of country-first mentality and to promote a sitting government for obvious reasons. And Mr. Liwe, we want to get people from all various backgrounds. Mr. Cooney clearly supports the CDC.
Quickly, to Mr. Liwe, who determined our country first? Is it his definition of country first or my definition? I mean, the brother got to open himself up.
All right. Thank you. So, Mr. Liwe, we have Mr. Cooney, who is dubbed as CDC Pape. If there is any ANC Pape, Unity Party Pape, Gonglo Pape, whoever, we welcome you, and then let's discuss. But Mr. Cooney brings so much to the table that we can't afford to let him go. And we want diverse views. But let's go around the room for closing comments. Let me start with you, Carl.
Yeah, there's still hope. Liberia has seen worse days. It's not, it's not doomsday. It's not the end of the world. We just need to put our act together and move the country forward. We're better than this. We're better than our current situation.
Carl, sorry, let me stop you because there are two comments here I want you to respond to.
Okay.
This one from George Dunbar Grandson says, Carl calls her own party like that. Say you cause Unity Party. Akuma Suarez say, Carl, you are dead wrong. It is the foreign country that built the relative peace in Liberia.
And that's okay. Really quickly, it's getting late. That's sad that people think that the peace in Liberia was not built by Liberians. They don't know very recent history if they think that. That's very unfortunate. It was Liberians that ultimately brought peace. And much of the war was instigated by foreigners. Much of the war was financed. Liberians were armed by foreigners. I don't want to get into all of that. This stuff is documented. There's no reason for any Liberian person to stand up and say that our peace was built by outsiders. That is a lie. That is a lie, and it's not historically accurate. The second thing is, I didn't cuss my party. I made a point that the Unity Party was, in my opinion, absolutely incorrect by going to the U.S. Embassy. That's not cussing, Mr. Dunbar. That is stating my opinion, very strong opinion about the importance of self-reliance. Just as we did with the peace process, we beg, but at the end of the day, that was us. Just like with the Ebola whole situation, I was in Liberia for Ebola. At the end of the day, it was us. So y'all sit down there and think that you're not the ones who are driving your sovereignty, your peace. It is a lie. Every gain that has been made in Liberia has been done by Liberians. And we will do more. And we need to understand that it is our responsibility and no one else's to take care of ourselves and one another. Nobody likes us more than we like ourselves.
Thank you, Carl. Tomorrow at 6 o'clock, we're going to have the literary hour. Tune into the literary hour with Dr. K. Moses Name and Jackie Sayer. And then also tomorrow at 8 p.m., we're going to have a debate. The Liberian Association in Central New Jersey, that is the Trenton area, they're going to have their elections. And so the president and the vice president, we're going to have a debate, president and vice presidential debate right here on Focus on Liberia tomorrow at 8 p.m. That's the Paye Massacre team versus the We Are Gordon team. They're going to be discussing the history, the mission, the vision of their association, the reason they are running for office and what qualified them, and also their plans for the community and how are they going to determine if they are successful with that plan. I'm going to be moderating that debate right here on Focus on Liberia. Mr. Kone, your concluding statement, and we'll have our first-time guest have the last word.
My concluding statement tonight is actually an appeal to my president. The game is in the second half. The game is on the line. I'm appealing to the president, the entire government to open their eyes to incompetence, open their eye to low performance, open their eyes to things that expose the government, to ridicule things that embarrass the government, things that embarrass the country. I think it is about time that now we take action against these kind of practices. The situation at the RIA cannot continue. There can be no explanation that can explain that. So we have to be clear on these things. 2023 is coming, and we should minimize the bullet points that we will give to the opposition, even though they're already confused. But most importantly, we should serve our people in the best way. We should deliver the best for our people so that they can jubilantly re-elect the mighty Congress for democratic change. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dulake.
Again, thank you, Dennis Jazz, for the opportunity given me today to be on the platform, and to the two panelists who also participated in the conversation today. I'd like to close up on the note that many times mentioned by Mr. Cummings, that we cannot give up on our country despite all of what have happened to us and continue to happen to us. Today, homes were burning in the rehab community. Fire service could not be present. The issue of RIA, jet fuel finishing, no gas at the LPRC. Those are all arithmetic infantry. I mean, knowing when they should be in and when they should be low. Those are basic things that we should be on top of. And I'd like to say finally, that we as Liberia need to be patriotic and have allegiance to our nation. We cannot minimize an economic, become economical about the truth about our country. We have to be honest and genuine about how we see Liberia and where we want to see Liberia go ahead. And that is the bank. That is what we from the ANC are on. We may not be so perfect, but we think with an open mind, we all as collective people can make Liberia go ahead. Thank you so very kindly.
On that note, I want to say thank you so much. I want to thank our viewers for always watching Focus on Liberia. Follow us on all social media platforms. We are also live on FM 105.5 in Monrovia. That's Prime FM every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern or 9 p.m. local time in Monrovia. At this time, we close with our song that says, "We are all Liberians." Whether you support the ANC, the CDC, the NPP, or LPP, or whatever party, we are all Liberians, and let's do our best to make our country the glorious land of liberty. Good night, and God bless you.
We are